Yeah. Well, everybody, welcome to the, and I want to pronounce the name of the company correct. Scylla?
Scylla. Go for
Scylla.
go with Scylla.
Scylla. Okay. I didn't know how you guys wanted it to be pronounced. So, Scylla. Scylla works with an X. We're gonna hear from Ara, and Ara, the CEO. Is that correct? Of
No,
Scylla?
no. I'm technical co-founder.
Oh,
We have our CEO. I think he will be somewhere online. I'm pretty sure he is overviewing. Yeah. So yeah, I am one of guys who actually was in the beginning of this whole story, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And yeah, thanks a lot for this opportunity. Thanks a lot for introduction. I will go into the product shortly. I will briefly introduce what the company does. Then we will go to the actual integration part and this great opportunity that Network Optix provides. And I will outline the benefits and why actually it is exciting and very well, it adds a lot of value for us at least. And yeah, so
one
yeah,
thing
go ahead.
before we start, sorry. There's questions you guys can ask at any time. I'll follow along with the questions, and then or I'll be the mitigator, so you can keep presenting, and I'll see the questions, and I'll try and if they're relevant to like that particular slide, then I'll ask the question, and if not, we can hold them till the end, and we can review them at that point in time. So
yeah, wonderful. Thanks a lot. And yeah, as presented, I lead the data science part of the solution, the AI part, and I'm a technical co-founder at Scylla. And well, our mission is to empower the private security industry with the AI, and we provide our solutions are computer vision based. They augment existing solutions which they deal with vision, with computer vision, with CCTV cameras, with body-worn cameras, with all sort of cameras, and including I will tell you also briefly about some branchings of our solution. It all started with our flagman product, which is weapon detection and violence detection, and that's why you see this scary looking guys, because well, there was a promo video. Due to the time constraints, there are some videos that they are out there in YouTube. I will probably run several of them because visually presenting everything is well, it's more obvious. It makes more obvious some part of the solutions, but due to time constraints, I wouldn't stop on everyone, but just for you guys out there who probably will have some questions, just know I have some materials on the background. Go ahead and maybe I will switch to them and show them while answering your questions. So that's the mission is pretty clear, and I will get to how we achieve that mission. So in short, we provide a solution that makes camera surveillance environment, the CCTV environment, and not only real-time, proactive instead of reactive. Not only it does, we provide the solution that triggers and acts, let's say immediately, but also the information, the pathways of the information that comes out, this important information, the alerting and awareness. It comes fast, comes enriched with information and addressed and goes to where it has to go, and it is bound, and it is the goal is to save the time that that security segment needs to react on possible threats. So the technology, we like to bring this analogy. I mean, you deal, most likely you deal with cameras, you know what they are currently capable of, and you know that their solutions, every camera comes with some limited solutions, this way or the other, edged solutions. So you might ask yourself, then why would you need some extra stuff, some extra AI, fancy word with recent word? Well, the analogy that we tend to bring is kind of a simple, imagine a simple DVD player. I don't even know you guys have it anymore because it's kind of a outdated. Currently, it's kind of considered outdated technology. And while AI is more like a Netflix, with all the enriched functionality that Netflix provides, with all this interaction and ability to give you the exact content and that you desire, and also the ability to change, to evolve, to become something more rich, etc., etc. Of course, it outpasses the limited functionality of DVD player. And while when you were back then, probably some 10 years ago, buying it, of course, it did a job and you were happy. But again, mine is somewhere, I don't know, maybe collecting dust somewhere, because, well, I would hardly find any DVD or CD nowadays, at least in my environment. So anyway, that's the analogy. And the technology is based on several key base algorithms, I would say, or pathways of analysis. One of them is object detection. Then we have thermal screening. Then we use both for some kind of analysis of the scenery. There is a conjugation of two, like object detection and thermal screening, and anomaly detection and behavior recognition. That's the third one. And the conjugation, or some kind of juggling with all these three, like in several solutions, we have two of them or three of them in one place, etc. So these are the tools, right? The basic bricks, and what we do with them. I will show you some examples, and imagine these are the use cases which are developed, working there, installed, and bringing the benefit to the users. So, like for example, here in this basic chart, what it does, it detects whatever you want. For most of the contents, we're talking about threat. Yeah, we have some, let's say peaceful applications for retail stores, like for example customer and flow analysis, etc. So when I'm saying we detect a threat, don't take it like literally, right? So for parking solution, yeah, we do have that, we do provide that too, or face recognition related stuff. So we detect whatever is out there on the video channel, then we analyze, and then we identify what it is, make sure that it is what we are looking for, and then we notify. We notify on mobile endpoints, on dashboards, on access control systems, all sorts of possibilities. And we are very flexible there, versatile, and I will talk about it, especially in the contents of integrations such as we have with NX. So again, like I'm collecting the solution in some kind of charts to make it, let's say, more obvious. So suspicious objects or activity anomaly detection, that's one of the things we're after. Then intrusion detection, perimeter protection is another solution, very handy nowadays. And then thermal screening with some heat signature analysis is the third one, which is nowadays, well, you know, with COVID-19 still going on all over the world. This solution is pretty popular nowadays. And then the analysis happens with our solution, sometimes on the edge, sometimes on the dedicated servers, centralized. It can be cloud, it can be local. And then the endpoint is the information transfer and the alarms or some informations and analytics, etc. So I will start again with my favorite. This is the oldest this solution that we provide, and this is the flag, and that's what we call preventive threat detection. It is preventive in terms of analysis, with analogy with what usually happens if, God forbid, some stuff like this happens. You usually hear about it when things are, let's say, already, well, too late or some sort. There are shots, gunshots, or whatever happened there. While this type of a solution, well, it's called object detection. These objects can be different, but I will start with the threat, with a gun, rifle, shotgun, or whatever. So our solution can detect this in the view. It can detect it much, let's call it much better than a human eye, because of it can apply a special algorithms of zooming and verifying, looking into several frames in the same time, etc. Human eye, yeah, well, it can be sharp and everything, but we have human factor errors there, 24/7 glancing over the dashboards. You guys probably would know that. You can imagine that is bound to bring its own flows. While the system that we provide, Scylla provides, is 24/7, unambiguous. It works all the time with the same accuracy and doesn't do mistakes there. Sometimes yes, but it's self-learning, so these mistakes get to close to zero in quite some fast time, right? And we also provide, in terms of object, we didn't stop on the weapons. We also went forward in there, these masks, detection helmet for industrial safety solutions that we provide, etc., etc. So this is the object detection, and I will just quickly show you a video just to hope you see.
So right now, all right, you guys integrate like this first feature was really
Yep.
focused more on like law enforcement and military. It looks like.
Exactly, exactly. And
So like
well,
when
it was, yeah, sorry.
I'm curious when did it come out? When was the first release of it?
We started the development some 3 years ago. Initially, it was proof of concept level. Then quite soon, it became production grade, and we had these installations out there. I would be, it was going on a pike, but then with the COVID situation,
Yeah.
dealing some year ago or something, with all this closing of schools and public areas, it kind of there was a cool down of the interest, and then it was replaced with the COVID solution that we provide, or security, other type of security solutions. But unfortunately, we have some outlook there that especially with economic situations and getting worse again due to COVID related stuff.
Oh yeah. So
Then
basically, though, I mean,
yeah,
most applicable markets you guys see are like law enforcement, military, and then I guess education, like K through 12, and like
yeah,
universities.
exactly, with hospitals and public areas of different sorts. We have also installations in airports or some transportation areas or
Critical
retail.
infrastructure.
Exactly, critical infrastructure. Mainly that. We have somewhat a segment in semi-private areas, I would say, smaller business points, something like that. But most of our customers are B2C or something like that, B2B,
Maybe.
B2B levels. All right. So I will not show these longer videos anymore, and you can find them in the YouTube. But I will just briefly go over and then switch to NX integration quickly. So again, one of the solution that I named several times is this COVID compliance solution, which includes thermal screening. Which provides thermal screening. It measures people when they pass in front of thermal camera on the go. It provides also some alerts on face mask detection or people. It also counts people for occupancy counting inside the buildings. Then we also provide a solution which provides contact tracing when you know or learn that a person has the virus, then you can do some forensic search and find the cases where this person was contacting someone else inside the building. And also our solution also monitors and alerts when there's a social distance violation.
So Mike,
right?
I have
so,
two questions
yeah.
for you on the, oh, never mind.
Okay.
You tell me. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I wouldn't go again. I wouldn't show you this promo videos. They're all out there in the YouTube. Probably I can, in retrospect, I can send some links to attendees. But then, yeah, what it does, it measures with a dedicated camera and cameras, thermal cameras, and then you have the reports on dashboards and mobile endpoints, etc. The search can be subtle. I mean, the measurement can be subtle, and you can have the reports. Some enterprise customers, for example, they don't want this, checking guys at the entrances. So they still get the information. They still react on it as fast as possible, or to eliminate or the outspreading effect of the virus. But they don't want to restrain potential customers or their employees or whatever. Right. So we have quite a few installations out there in the airports, and MLB, Major League Baseball.
Yes. Does it require a black box?
No. And this is the beauty of the solution. We have enabled some smart analytics in this solution, and which outperforms what the camera itself does on the edge. I will briefly name that. We do several measurements per person. We do some smart analytics on site, and we report the temperature only if it is statistically coherent and reliable. So what camera does, it does this instant measurement, and it does a lot of mistakes. And we have a lot of customers actually who bought the camera. They're not happy with it, and then they buy the software to be happy with it, and they usually end up being.
So it kind of establishes like a baseline, baseline
exactly.
temperature, and then
exactly.
It looks at the anomaly as opposed to like the fact that there's this difference in temperature.
Perfect. Yes. Exactly. Okay. That's how it works. It looks on the herd average, and then that's exactly what you want. Essentially, you don't care about the numbers. You care about the anomalies, and that's exactly how we treat it. We know the average, etc., and then there's a person who is higher than the average. Ta-da! That's the alert.
Yep.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Good guess. Cool. So yeah, and then we get to the intrusion detection, and it's pretty straightforward in many aspects. But then this is one thing that I will talk about it shortly, and there will be a demo about this. So the way it happens is the following. So you have motion detection on the cameras, and most of them, and VMS does provide that. And if you ever have the experience with that, you know there are bound to be false positives. Many reasons for that, unless the camera has some kind of a smart analytics on the edge. But then that has its own flaws and the accuracy issues, etc. Because we're talking about quite important computing capabilities to be able to tell with the highest accuracy if the trigger of the movement or motion was triggered with a human being or a car or a shadow which just slipped out of the window, or an animal, etc., etc. So that's exactly what's happening. You have all these cameras installed, you have enabled motion detection on the perimeter, but then you have so many false positives a day that you lose the guards, because you're just, well, another one. Yes, it was a cat. I know this cat. It's something like that. And we use this intrusion detection in many facilities nowadays, and the integration with NX also helped us in several places, because they already have the system, and we just install that, and there you go.
So basically, you guys are just looking at, like, if there's motion in the video, then I want you to see if there's a human or a vehicle in that.
Exactly.
That then I can keep that information, as opposed to like just make boring movies, is the way I describe it, right? It's like I got motion, but the motion that happens to be like these leaves in the tree, right? Like, which is not important, right?
This is the key word here: minimizing false alarms by some number 9995. So exactly that's what it's happening. If you leave the camera with the motion detection, you get tens or 20, depends on the area, especially outdoor. And I'm not even talking about the, for example, you will, of course, you will never be able to run motion detection on PTZ cameras, which by definition, they move around.
Right.
While you definitely can do that with our solution, because our solution doesn't care about the movement, it cares about the fact that there's a human being. And it's so accurate, it's very accurate. You don't need a human being, a full body human being or whatever. It can be a part of the body, it can be like under dark condition, IR illumination, etc., etc. The system will still see it and will not miss.
Yep.
So there are some deviations and branchings of the solution here. For example, you can, in loitering, dwell time, I mean, you can be okay if a person is there for some time, but if it stays longer than some time, then triggers the alert. Or we also, of course, with a person, we included a vehicle. So you can do detection of vehicles when they're not supposed to be there. And of course, that also includes the parking solutions, so parking areas and solutions. We do provide some heat maps because, yeah, well, this all is about detecting people. And when you detect people, you can do all sorts of stuff with that. You can track them, you can count, and then you can provide some heat maps on where they where they spend most of the time, when they hang on well or whatever. So, and also you can do, for example, overcrowding alert. You can count people and say, okay, I don't want more than 5 people in front of my house, for example, at the same time. And it's just an example. Whenever there's more, you know. And there are some organizations that are interested, especially in this kind of an alert. Okay, so this is one of the examples. And again, I will skip the video. Anomaly detection and behavior recognition. This is one of the recent solutions compared to the others. It's a production grade. It's working out there, installed and everything. But this is something also very, very unique. No one else has that. And you can do your research and find out, especially with this kind of choices that we provide: fighting, smoke and fire, shoplifting, and wrestling and vandalism.
Yeah.
So
There's 3 of those that are really unique, are like the shoplifting, wrestling, and vandalism. I've never seen before. So
yeah,
those
tell me about it. I know exactly. You cannot. Maybe you can find some manuals of fighting, maybe, but they're all based on some kind of a technique, pose estimation, etc. And they get very heavy on resources, and especially they very highly depend on number of people. While our solution can be running on stadiums. So it can differentiate between people just cheering and people fighting. And same applies with all the side. Like shoplifting is a very unique solution.
Yeah.
Of course, it is trained on huge number of these cases, but then it can detect and raise the awareness when there's a person who does a suspicion act of, I don't know, like
Potential shoplifting.
Potential shoplifting, putting something in a bag or putting under clothing or something, then in a pocket. We detect that as the movement. We detect the movement and we alert the appropriate security segment. So again, I will skip the video unless there will be questions people would like to see it. Another unique feature that we provide is, as I said, we are kind of, not kind of, but we are inert towards the background. We don't care if the background is moving around or is messy or whatever, light, dark, or whatever. So it allows us to run the system on moving cameras, for example, drones or body-worn cameras. We can definitely run on those, and especially with the drones and the ability of these inherited algorithms that we have, these zooming in algorithms, for example, that zoom digitally in a certain area and make sure that what they see is exactly the object of interest. It allows us to run the system on drones and detect on distances of unprecedented distances. I'm talking about small objects like a gun detected at the distances of 250 or 300 meters. I'm talking about a person detected at distances of 500, 700, 800 meters, etc. So it's very allows us to, especially, of course, it depends on the quality of the camera, but as soon as the camera is there, there's no need of manual intervention and manual overwatching of the thing. This all is done automatically by the AI. All right.
Do you do
so,
any
yep.
For the drones? Just a quick question. Do you do is it mainly people and vehicle based, or is it also look at things like agriculture? There's a question that came in.
At the moment, we are doing all the objects that I already named previously, like weaponries, all these objects like mask wearing, social distancing, people, car. We don't do agriculture yet. That wouldn't be but the main core thing is that we have the technology. Teaching it to do something new, especially with all the flow back there, and the training, and the fact that we quite fast we make the system. You know, I would tell this small secret, I would say. So AI, usually when they call AI, they refer most on machine learning. So, well, it's a cool word and it's fancy and everything, but it's not actually the AI thing. And for the AI thing, the system should be self-learning. While in our systems, quite soon, not very, first you teach it and it listens to you. But then quite soon there's the sigma shape development when the system starts self-learning. We learned how to make the system to
deep learning,
itself.
right?
Deep learning, exactly. And all this preparation of the data when the system is self-learning and understands its own mistakes with a perceptron mechanism and improves itself with the time. So yeah, so I got
it's possible, but you don't have that focus right now. So if someone's interested in that, should they contact you guys or not?
Yeah, definitely we'll be open for alternatives. And I would also outline as a company, well, we have this unique selling points, and some of them are quite, well, let's say measurable. These numbers, I would say, like, let's say price and hardware resources is something that we well, I usually brag about it. I'm sorry, I should. I have the right to, because the thing is that for the analysis, yeah, I'm talking about edged or centralized server analysis, yes, but just don't be scared by the word server there, because again, just an example. My computer is just I usually bring this, my notebook, it's a gaming notebook, yes, but it analyzes 20 cameras, my notebook. So you don't need super duper heavy machinery to do this stuff. We spent a lot of time and efforts to minimize the computational hardware costs to absolute minimum. Our possible, I wouldn't say competitors, but again, if you do something like this, if you have an experience of object detection or anomaly detection, we can, I would say, go ahead and compare the hardware that you need. The best number that I got there is like 8 times more. So alternatives request 8 times more hardware to do the same stuff that we do. That's numbers. So
you guys run on CPU or GPU, is that right?
Mostly we run on GPU, especially when I'm talking about, like, say, it's more or less sophisticated, like tracking of people, sending
behavioral analytics, like shoplifting and stuff. You're gonna need GPUs,
exactly.
right?
We do have some minor, let's say, solutions which can be not only installed on the edge, the GPU, like Jetson Nano, whatever, like Xavier or something, but also we do have a few of them that run on CPU. I will give a very small example. The parking solution. We're talking about something that doesn't need huge speed, right? We're talking about something that you can analyze one frame in 5 seconds and it still will be valid, because you're talking about long-term parking analysis, etc. And this can be done on the CPU. This is an example. Face recognition, you can run it, or some sorts, some smaller models, close proximity, etc. But if you want to do a sophisticated some stuff like detecting a gun on 250 meters, which your eye wouldn't be able to even guess that there might be something, you need some more.
Well, I mean, the way I describe it to people is if it's easy for a child to do it, it's going to be pretty easy for deep learning driven or AI based analytics to do it. But if it's something that it's even difficult for an adult to do, you're going to need a lot of processing power, just like, because that's the way that deep learning is based off of the way we learn, right? And the way that we see the world. So it's going to follow similar ideas, right? If a human can do it, you can teach the machine to do it for the most part, right? Unless you're talking about complex behaviors where things get like, can humans do that? If the answer is nah, well, you have to have training to do that, then probably not yet, right? But eventually, yes, right?
But yeah, exactly, you're totally right. But to be honest, when I'm asked questions like that, I say, as a rule of thumb, when there are questions like, what is the distance, what camera, etc., there's a rule of thumb idea. I'm saying if you can see it, then the machine most likely will see it better. And there is a backup for this. I mean, it can be, again, it can be sounding like, but the fact is that these inside the algorithms that we are using, I wish I had it, because they are named eagle eye, for example.
Right.
Exactly the way that the eagle will hunt the prey and focus on some area, disregard everything else. You would wish your eyes work like that. In the same way our algorithms work, they zoom in a very high resolution, make sure they know what happened a few seconds ago and a few frames ago and a few frames ahead, and they take all this information into consideration, and they do this at the split of a second speed on the different sides of the frame, etc. And that's how they can, in some areas, they can become, or especially when I'm talking about dark areas like impaired illumination, etc. Then the system is.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one thing that the machine can do that we can't do based off of video frames is it can look backwards in time, right? So it can see something and recognize that it is, let's say, a gun, right? But then it goes, maybe that's a gun. So then it can go back a little bit, look at the earlier frames and look at the next few frames and say, yes, definitely a gun, right? Whereas humans, you don't have that luxury of jumping back a little bit to double check, right? So that's where, I mean, to your point, when you say zoom in, what you're really talking about is on a time basis, like go back and look at this information. You're not creating more pixels, right? You're just clarifying, like the AI is able to basically clarify the pixels and kind of optimize them and say, okay, that is that thing, right?
Exactly. And not only that, but also the fact that you can be connecting with a very, very high, like 8K cameras. You know, the problem is that that's a secret probably, but then AI or computer vision, unless it's a super duper computer, high liquid cooled, etc., etc., 8K frames wouldn't fit the current resources, and not all, especially for when we're talking about consumer grade analytics. Right. So or the hardware. So this means that typically what people would do, they will downscale it to much smaller resolution.
Well, like our SDK allows you to pull it out at whatever resolution you want, and different and uncompressed or compressed, right? So there's lots of different formats. So
exactly. So I mean, exactly. That's, for example, I will give you another analogy. Thermal cameras, they do come with the edge. As I said, they do come with some kind of solution, but we integrate with those cameras that provide us the raw data. Because the thing is, like the raw thermal data, not what they measure. When there are some offers that we will measure and give you, just show, no, that's not how it works. We trust you guys and everything, but we have our own analytics, which is smarter. We think, and it's proven with the tests and in laboratories and everything, it's proved and in the field. So we do need the raw data. We do need the raw pixels to come to us, and we know how to treat them in time and in all sorts of other algorithms that are there. Okay, so that's how the AI works and the solutions. I guess I got to this very exciting part. How Scylla is working at the moment with NX and the outlook that we have, and the very excited outlook that we have with future ideas. And of course, this question, whether or not you prepare for that or not, it comes when we are discussing the actual installation. So people usually end up having something out there already, like CCTV cameras out there, which means that they usually have some kind of a management system, video management system, VMS. And that's why definitely we started in parallel to integrate with different management systems, video management systems, to minimize the effort and facilitate the installation process. So one of them that I will briefly at least discuss and present, and I think I will do another at the demo. I think I have time, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you got plenty of time. We're just getting in the second half. Everybody, like, that's pretty much the Scylla features that they do as an individual company, right? So if there's any questions about that, there was one question that came in. I mean, the precision agriculture thing earlier. Another question came in from one of our partners in Portugal, and the question was, with the thermal cameras, does your algorithm detect if a high vision camera detects a face at a printed photo or an iPad in front of the camera? So it can, do you deal with the, you know, I'm going to present a fake face to you, right?
Okay, so
Right,
this is the
printed.
thing. Yeah, and so the way thermal camera works, at least the ones that we are using, is dual. So it has the visual, it has the thermal. So the visual sees the face, and the thermal knows where it has to focus and measure. It focuses on the areas which is much. It's actually it focuses on this tear duct area, close to the eyes, and this is most representative. And the temperature, because we're talking about body temperature, core temperature, correlates mostly with this area close to the eyes.
Right.
So the way what will happen if you come with a photo there? The photo cannot have, or at least you have to have these features, the thermal distribution on the photo, which
Right.
is similar to human being. You have to heat the photo in the temperature 36 and 6 around the eyes, and
Right.
then the nose should be colder, etc. It's literally impossible. The efforts that you will spend to recreate human thermal signature on the photo, it's literally undoable. So our system will get that, and you will have unable to measure reporting on the dashboard. What happens, I will give you another example and close the question. So for example, in some installations in Asian countries, people come with headgear, and you saw this headgear that probably covers most of the face and leaves only the eyes out. What will happen if you engage an edged software of the camera? The camera will not see a face, because for the camera edged inside the software that is inside the camera, you have to have eyes, nose, mouth, or at least part of it. So these people will just pass by, will not be even measured. Well, our system can detect these cases and can alert in a specific way. And then the overviewing, whoever this personnel, can usually they come and measure on the hand or some other body part. It's just an example of the limit of the edge solution versus what can AI do. And it's an example of Scylla being flexible and providing some, let's say, additional features which you will not find anywhere else. All right. So any more questions on the product line? Okay. If there will
The
be,
reason that they asked
yeah.
the question was that there was a publication in the industry that actually tested it with high vision and Doppler thermal detection, and they found that the fake faces still measured temperature for some reason.
I know that. I know that. And
Yeah, we don't need to go into it, but basically, I think that's why the question was asked, was that there are certain
okay, yeah.
manufacturers that may be faking it. I don't know. I have no experience with it. So.
I know the publication, and we know that because one of our customers did that test, and they came back and saying, okay, well, now we see why we bought it. Because exactly what I'm saying, there is an analytics underneath. It's not just simply, you know, if it's a face, show some number and be happy with that. So there are very tough analytics underneath, and we are not measuring by just one frame, but several frames. We know how the signature behaves when a person is approaching the camera. And if this is not compliant to what we are expecting, what you will get is unable to measure the minimum. And usually you will get the red bulb flashing and alerting. But then that's why the system is so much valued and so much sophisticated, because the accuracy level that we provide is backed up by not only our own algorithms and vision and implementation, but also a number of tests out there. And the tests are very thorough. Comparisons, lab tests, etc., and they all come back with this kind of positive results. So yeah, no way to fake
So
that. If you
there was
apply
another question, but
AI.
I'm going to wait till the end for that question so that you can show the demo of how
Okay.
things work together.
Okay. So I went through I will actually do the demo. I will present on an example of intrusion detection integration with NX. Pretty straightforward in that respect. It does the analysis happens exactly the way I told what's the reason behind intrusion detection solution. you have the motion detection. NX has the motion detection out there. But what it does, of course, it can be triggered by, let's say, most of the motion out there, like shadows or maybe some stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can have some area of the screen outline, and there will be sensitivity levels, etc. That all is doable. But then people are missing this important outcome, like important smart checker, which says this is a human. So the way it works in our current implementation is the following, and the way I will show you. Again, due to time constraints, I wouldn't show you how to install etc. We'll do a separate probably webinar to show that it's so straight and simple and straightforward. Especially if you already have camera network installed, adding this feature is a blast. You just need a plugin. You just need some access key. Let's say you pay for it and then you get the access key. That's it. What happens is the following. I mean, well, there are several options of installation. Currently, I will show you the installation where Scylla is placed on the cloud. So the frame is sent to the cloud, being verified. You get the alert only when there's a person in the specified area of the screen, and this person, then you will get the alert. All right. So again,
let me recap what you said, okay, for our guys, the way that they understand it. So Scylla's got cloud-based service, right? When you install, you can go ahead and install a powered by NX product or NX Witness VMS, for example, and then you put the Scylla plugin that was developed with the metadata SDK onto the server, right? And then you're going to see this field that Art is showing right now. And all you need is a key and basically system ID and everything, and that's how you link the two things together through the system administration interface. And then after that,
yeah, well, you can also put, I'm just showing how simple it is, at least at this moment. Definitely there can be some detours, some additional developments, whatever, especially with the upgrades to come. But at this moment, it does what it is designed for, right? It's pretty straightforward and very simple in that respect.
So right now it's just intrusion. You said intrusion and perimeter detection, right?
Yeah.
Just that feature set right now.
Exactly. Gun detection is also developed. I cannot show you on my computer, but it is also developed. So gun detection is out there also. It can be triggered with motion alert, and then the frame will be sent, and there will be a gun detection. A gun detection will be applied on this. When I'm saying gun, I mean all the sorts of weapon types. Fire weapon and knives, etc. That will be applied on this frame, and then you can get either 2 alerts or, let's say, levels of alerts. Usually we color code them, and say an intrusion is orange, and when an intrusion is with a gun, you get the red alert, and it has its own alerting, like levels.
Yeah.
The sound level of alerting, or anyway. So this is the overview, high-level overview, how it works. And yes, definitely, I mean, you're right. We use the metadata SDK developed plugin. The way it works, we get these frames from that, and then the check is sent back to metadata SDK. If it's positive, there's a human, then it is sent back to the server, and then the analytics event is shown on the NX desktop client. And what it does, what's the integration benefit? I think it's pretty straightforward again, but then just to outline, you can have the smart object detection that works and checks the frames. So you don't end up having frames that are irrelevant. You won't have them on your dashboard. You won't be bothered with them. Right. So and this basic simple region of interest is translated to our server. Again, if you want to be specific in a time schedule or an area, only this area will be triggering. So this might be obvious in the first glance, but just I'm saying that this whole thing is very well interconnected. If your motion detection, and I will show you, is designed in a specific area, then what Scylla will do, it will check for people in this specific area too. It won't be just showing, okay, well, there's a guy, I don't care where he is. There you go, the alert. Okay, and yeah, we do have this cloud-based server that I will show you. I mean, currently I will show you how it works on the cloud. It's pretty fast and blast. But then if you don't want to say for some reason it happens, it's a privacy issue, etc. If you don't want, then you can have local deployment. It can be checked, these frames can be checked on your local server. Okay, and this functionality of plugin can be configured separately for each and every camera with its own regions, with its own timing schedules, etc. And then you can have different respondings to alert. Very highly configurable, especially given the abilities and tools that the NX provides. And I think this is a video, but I would rather, this is a video of.
Yeah, let's just jump to the live demo. I think that's what everybody's waiting for.
Exactly. So I will show you. Okay, so give me I think, yeah, too fast. Okay, so currently the system is designed to detect a motion in this doorway area. Okay, but what happens if there is a motion of when you saw it in this area? Definitely, just let's say, trust me on this. The motion was triggered and the frames were sent to the cloud. But you didn't get the alert because there was no human in this area. You will get the alert when there is a human being in this area that's being sent to the frame, being checked, and then you get the alerting on the right side of the frame on the right side. And again, this is all integrated in the NX view.
So, all right, if you right click on that camera and then open up camera settings.
There you are.
So then if you go to motion at the top, then you can see the motion area that's configured right now for us, right? So that's basically where you were waving the paper, and like there was no alert that came through. But the moment that a human is detected in that region, then I'm guessing you guys have a rule set up. So if you close that dialog and you right click on the camera again and go to camera rules, then you can see here there's on analytics event, and then that camera when intrusion is detected, and that's what's been done by the metadata SDK, right? The metadata SDK always makes the rules that or creates the events and makes those events available for you guys to program the rules. And you can see here they've got show desktop notification, and then I believe probably in your interface there's a way to also force it to set up a bookmark and acknowledge it, but we can look at that later. So like for the specifics of the integration, you guys can find out on the NX integrations marketplace, right? Because the Scylla integration is actually listed at nxvms.com/integrations right now in our NX cloud interface. So sorry, didn't mean to keep going.
No, perfect addition and perfectly explaining, first of all, how it works, how it was designed. And again, there might be all sorts of, it's pretty flexible. We really enjoyed programming for the plugin, and it was all.
When did you guys start working on it? Because like it happened fast. I remember like I was like, who are these guys? I don't think we've talked to them very often. And then it was boom, here it is. It all works. So when did you guys begin working with it?
I think it's a week or so. Or two. I don't remember exactly when. But it's a 50-50 because it wouldn't be that fast if it wasn't that straightforward. And the documentation, we really appreciate the documentation.
Yeah. So this is the first integration of it, and there may be features and things like that missing. Like for example, we were playing with it earlier, the objects and the objects aren't coming in right now, but that might just be because this is a really quick integration. So if you're interested in seeing specific features, my suggestion is talk to Ara and Scylla about what you want to see. There are a couple questions that came in that I think are good questions, but basically this is the general overview of the integration, right? It works like any other metadata SDK level integration for us guys. I mean, but you can see how simple it is to set it up. You got like 3 fields, that you need to set up, and then you need to go and create your rules on both sides of the system to make it more customized in terms of what you wanted to do, right? So there was a couple
Exactly.
good questions that came in that I wanted to ask you because we got about 10 more minutes, and I want to have anybody ask questions at this point. One question is temperature measurement. What's the distance limitation on that for like thermal cameras?
These limitations come from hardware itself, and the
Yeah.
cameras come with the different ranges. There can be a camera 1.5 meter to 3. There can be camera 3 to 7, and camera for, let's say, works from 4 to 9 meters or so. I would say middle range is the most accurate according to our experience, and I would say the ranges that we typically recommend is around 4 or 5 meters.
4 or 5 meters. Is it based off pixel density though? At the end of the day?
Yeah, at the end of the day, pixel density on the thermal matrix and the crosstalk thereof. So anyway, there are some hardware.
But if you guys get involved with the project, you'll basically give them a set of requirements you'll be able to answer that question based off the view they give you. Is that right? Okay. The other question was, what is the latency for the cloud-based stuff? So the demonstration you just showed us now, was that the cloud-based one or was that the local server?
It's a cloud-based. And the latency is probably around 1 second or 1 second and a half.
1 to 1.5 seconds.
And the server is in US and it's across the globe, so it might be sped up.
Right. So you're right now in Armenia, you said, I think earlier.
Yeah, I'm
so
sending
he's not
it
even
all
in
over.
the US. The servers are in the US, guys. So like he's doing this demo from Armenia, and you just saw the speed of it when he was doing it. It's very similar to. It's going to be really similar to any of these integrations for the most part, because they're grabbing individual frames based off of precursor actions in the system, right? So for him to have that, you see right there, it was like less than a second. For him to for them to send that information, it's not a lot of information because they're just grabbing a few of those frames that they need. They're not grabbing every single frame and streaming the video, full resolution, right? They may be working off the secondary stream, even depending on the resolution that they require, right? So like the latency is not really that important. What's interesting is like getting that metadata back, and then we have an ability in the metadata SDK. So even if the time becomes a little bit unsynchronized because they're communicating with each other, they have the ability in the SDK to basically say, no, this tag belongs to this section of the archive, right? So it's not going to affect, like you're going to see the event as it happened, and you're going to be able to review it as it happened, right? Because of that time synchronization. So latency shouldn't be that big of a deal for you guys, because let's be honest, everybody's stuck on latency, but at the end of the day, like you're not going to respond to something in 1 second. It's not how it works. You're the majority of these things are, you have to go back and see what happened. It's event review still. Granted, it's better nowadays because it allows you to make video a proactive tool, right? So get more real-time situational awareness, which I think they talked about in their presentation earlier. But really, latency shouldn't, I would say, try to avoid the latency trap with your customers, because the latency trap it's just it's not a real metric. It doesn't really impact your ability. As long as you're, I mean, now granted, if it takes an hour, yes, it's a problem, right? If it takes a minute, maybe it's a problem, right? But if it takes a second or like 3 seconds, like no one's gonna care, right? And
you speak my word. I mean, I went through this so many times. This is word by word.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if you get it on your mobile, how long does it take for you to take it out, press the code, and see what's happening?
Yeah, it takes you.
You're very fast. It's 4 seconds. So fighting about 2.5 seconds or 1.5 seconds. Come on, I understand. Seconds matter. We do work on that and everything. So yeah. Realistically,
but if you're in a production monitoring situation where you're dealing with milliseconds, that's a whole different application. That's not monitoring human beings. Human beings don't move as fast as machines do when they're making like welds on a silicon board, a silicon wafer. It's not the same application, right? So don't get trapped in the latency thing is my one piece of advice. All right.
Exactly. Anything else?
So they asked a follow-up question. One more question from Portugal. which is that the thermal cameras don't need black body. So how does the temperature, how does the camera get the real temperature? And I think we covered this earlier, Silvio, who asked the question, which is that it establishes a baseline for like what's normal for people across the office, right? And when it sees someone who's abnormal, then
Mm-hmm.
it alerts you, right? Because let's be
Yeah.
honest, like
No,
thermal detection for whether or not you might be sick, it depends. Human body fluctuates a lot, even with different like things you eat and like did you exercise recently or have you drank enough water? I mean, all these things impact your normal body temperature, right? So I wouldn't get too stuck on the temperature black body part of it for the most part, right? The kind of more important thing I think for us in the surveillance industry and the IP video industry is like more the distance detection, the social part of it, right? Are people being
yeah.
safe, the contact tracing part of it? Because no
Masks and
thermal camera is
stuff
going to
like
tell
that.
you this person has COVID or not, right? So
Yeah, it has little, let's say, some limited abilities because of scale. Again, we never place this as a COVID detection solution. It's a even legally, it's not right to do that because first of all, everyone knows you can have COVID but don't have fever. You can have fever, high temperature but don't have fever. You can be just running and entering the building right immediately after that. You will have some elevated temperature out there. But then just to finalize, you're right. The way it works, it detects this elevated body temperature. Not only that, but it has this inside algorithm that it can detect this fluctuation patterns, and it will warn you that the system needs auto calibration. Basically, what it says is that go ahead, take a handheld temperature, measure yourself, as a guy who is observing these cameras or overviewing the system, and walk around in front of the camera, then you see this green thing that says calibrated. That's where this camera says, okay, I know the normal temperature, and now I'm ready to measure abnormal.
yeah.
We have that inside. Okay.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, then here's contact information. You guys are based right down the street from us. I think you're
Yeah.
based out of Glendale and we're based out of Burbank. So
Nice.
we're both in the San Fernando Valley. I'm actually and you're in Armenia right now. I'm actually in Texas where it's cold and
Mm.
frigid and broken for the most part for the power grid.
Sorry about
But
that.
yeah, you guys, we're gonna have this information. This is a recording of this webinar up on our YouTube channel underneath the Works with the Next section, and it'll be in my.networkgraphics.com, and then all the presentation will be there as well. And feel free to contact these guys and tell them what you need. As you can see, they've done a really quick integration, and it works. We got to see the live demo of it from Armenia. So if you got the requirement for one of the features that Ara talked about, then feel free to reach out to these guys. And Ara, yeah, that's the end of our hour or so. So thank you for taking the time to
Yeah,
explain it, and thank you for staying
no
up
worries.
late in Armenia.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and not only of this webinar in particular, which is really appreciated. It helps us a lot because we distribute this type of information further on to potential and existing clients. But also, thanks a lot for your product and the qualities of it, the easiness of use, easiness of integration. Very much appreciated, and definitely this is just the very beginning.
Yep.
It's going to get much more cooler and sexier.
Yeah, I can imagine. So like, thanks to you guys for doing the integration. There's some work involved there. So, all right, guys.
All right.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Thank you, Ara. And have a
Thanks a
good
lot.
evening. Get some rest.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.